I'm always a little bit cautious about coming into a group where I'm the only woman there and giving a talk, because a lot of times people will be like, is this going to be a women in tech talk? And in my defense, I did give this talk to the Women in Tech meetup at Innovation Birmingham on Wednesday, so there's going to be a couple slides that are very sort of focused on fostering diversity in groups and onboarding newbies of a diverse nature, and a couple of slides just talking about sort of the gender gap in tech, but I promise we'll switch right through those. So I'm going to be talking specifically about building communities and building user groups and sort of building tech scenes through onboarding newbies. And first I'm going to chat just really briefly about myself. So my name is Jessica Rose, and I run a lot of community education programs, mostly focused in the West Midlands. And I'm really interested in systemic issues around technology, sort of where we're doing really great jobs with connecting people and connecting ideas and connecting resources, and maybe sometimes when we're not doing as good a job as we could be. And the thing I'm really interested in tech is technology is this incredible place to work. Who here works in tech? Yeah, I thought 100% would probably be about right. And the thing I'm really interested in is I think that we've got this sort of two-tiered tech system. We've got this band of tech jobs and tech people where people are really visible, the pay is incredible and the benefits are incredible, but at the same time we've got this really huge, largely invisible community of users, developers, people who are using tech skills to build, but we're not necessarily part of the technology community. And I've been doing a couple projects around talent recently, which has involved a lot of poaching people from down here and trying to send them up for tech jobs that are a bit more fancy. So a couple really quick stats. Mortimer Spinks does an annual study on women in technology, and it's very UK focused, which is great because a lot of the stats are a little bit US centric. And in their 2014 study, they found that women make up a whole 15% of the workforce.
Is that just tech or is that STEM?
That's just technology specifically.
So how does that compare to STEM?
I'm not sure. I've got a slide on engineers overall coming up. And they found that digital marketing is the only role where you've got proper gender parity, which is great, except that I tend to see some of the best benefits are held in sort of visible, hard tech roles. Technology is about more than engineering. You can have a lot of things to do around technology where you're not working with code, but and these are some of the US-centric stats I was talking about. The income by gender for people who self-identified as in technology by Dice.com came up with men across the US making about 91K, which is awesome, that's really good. And they came out with women across the board making 81K, which would be amazing if that was not right next to the boys' number. And Dice.com said, you know what, we've done a bit of analysis and we think that some of these figures are due to the differences in roles that men and women predominantly hold. They found that women's most common role they found in tech was in project management. And they found that men's number one was going to be systems architect. And then you saw higher level pay, higher level benefits occurring more often in men's roles. And the STEM overall, here's what engineering, UK engineering employees have done by gender over the past, around 10 years. And would be great as a single data point. It's kind of miserable as a larger chart. Cool, has anybody seen one of my talks before? Cool, you already know. I was a teacher for a long time, and I hope you guys have gotten coffee because there's going to be a little bit of miserable back and forth, some very hesitant audience participation. So who's working in sort of an engineering role in technology now? Way, cool. Who's doing anything around community building? Way! I care a lot about big systemic issues in tech, which are really hard to fix. So I've stepped back a bit, and I don't really care about fixing the tech industry. That would be awesome. But for me, I'm specifically focused on the West Midlands. I think that we've got a small enough group of techies out here that we can do really cool gently weird social engineering. We can create new communities by specifically targeting newbies who are not in the ecosystem now and build a more diverse, more interesting tech community where people are better able to access awesome money, flexible jobs, and building cool shit. Sorry. So the question and answer session, I'm actually going to throw a couple questions at you all, and I'm going to preview them now. So what would you guys, who is in the West Midlands? Way! I'm very sorry to folks who didn't get to raise your hands. I'd like to ask for later, what do you want to see technology in the West Midlands look like? And what part would you want to have in technology in the West Midlands, sort of shaping what's going to happen? For me, I've become a little bit of a professional bully. So I tend to work one-on-one with people, especially people who aren't able to access some of the great benefits in tech, and gently bully them into fancier jobs, better pay, and better visibility where possible. And the thing that I use to build communities the most often is skill sharing and onboarding newbies. So have any of you been in a position where you hire in your roles? Are any of you in a hiring role where you have to onboard new talent into your organization? Cool, that's not too bad. Not having to do it is great because everybody talks about the skills shortage. So we say that we can't find enough developers, we can't find enough architects. And I think this is true both in employment and in our communities. So I'm going to preview very quickly a couple of organizations that are doing really, really great work to bring in more newbies. And if you're working on building communities, these are great communities to get involved with and begin poaching newbies to come into yours. So codebar.io. Codebar is specifically aimed at getting newbies from a more diverse range. So they serve anyone currently underrepresented in technology. And they actually teach people. So they're free classes, they tend to be once a week or so, and they're really, really wonderful. There's a Birmingham branch, a Brighton branch, and one in London. And if you're interested in this, it's great for people already in technology coming on board as mentors. This is terrible because I'm plugging my own project. Open Code is here in Birmingham and in Rugby as well. And we're actually coming out with a London chapter very soon. And it's a language agnostic mixed level study session. And that sounds very fancy and very formal, and it just means a bunch of programmers working on things, helping each other, where we've got every language we can come up with represented, and we don't care what level you are. For study yourself, so if you're running a community and you have somebody who's interested in getting involved, but doesn't have the skills yet, I've been really, really interested in Free Code Camp as a resource to onboard people into technology and into larger tech communities. And this is a completely free 1,600-hour self-guided study course, aiming to build the aim is to build full-stack developers. I think it does a fairly good job for an all-online resource. So they have a community embedded within there. You have Slack channels, you have IRC. It's really, really incredible. So if you have somebody come and wants to join your user group, but they don't really have the very basic skills to interact with the web, this is a really wonderful way to get people up to speed. Does anybody use Exorcism? Cool. This is very much like Free Code Camp. I really love this for folks who've gotten through the very basics, but need to get higher level development skills. And again, it's self-guided, it's completely free, and I really recommend it. And the hardest thing about getting newbies and bringing them on board is finding the people that you want to be involved. And it's really, really difficult when you're trying to grow a diverse community and your current membership is sort of folks who tend to be well represented in technology already. So if you want to get more women, more people of color, more LGBT folks involved, it's really hard when your current membership doesn't really reflect the people you'd like to bring on board. I think the biggest resource I can find, I can recommend for bringing in newbies is to reach out to people actively, to say, hey, I see you talking about getting into programming, I see you talking about getting into Linux, I see you talking about getting into my specialty on social media or on message boards or on things like Stack Overflow, I wanted to let you know that our community is available and we'd be really interested in having you as a part of it. So it sounds really counterintuitive that a lot of building community with newbies is actually going and trying to find where they're hiding. A more passive version of this is making yourself available. So making yourself visible as a resource within your community is exhausting and stressful and it'll eat up a lot of your time, but it's incredibly useful. So if you're running a community, if you're running a user group and you want to be onboarding more newbies as part of your membership drive, let people know that you're available. Let people know that they can email you. Let people know that they can be involved through you. And the last thing I would point out is bringing newbies into an existing community can be really stressful for newbies. So who here has sort of a traditional background that brought them into working with technology? Did you go to uni for STEM stuff? And yeah, a little bit. Is there anybody who doesn't? Cool. As somebody who didn't do that, coming into your first hackathon, coming into your first user group, coming into your first tech space is terrifying. So keep an eye out for people who aren't already in the ecosystem, aren't already doing things that are sort of techy, and make a specific point to reach out to them informally. So a lot of the work I do around my projects involves sitting down and having coffee with someone at a coffee shop and chatting about their goals, or meeting somebody outside the hack before bringing them into the community. It seems weird for us sitting here because we know that we're all lovely and friendly and snuggly. But for a lot of people who haven't been involved in tech communities, the only way they've seen that is through the web. And people in communities online are not always snuggly and friendly and helpful. So reaching out and meeting people one-on-one and letting them know that we're better than the internet is a really good way to bring people on board. So with community building and with bringing newbies on board, I'm always really cautious, and I'm not sure if I'm taking the right approach. When I talk to people who are underrepresented in tech, who want to come into technology, I really want to sell them on the idea that this is great, technology is great. But getting people on board, getting newbies the skills they need, and getting them into communities isn't necessarily going to fix the systemic issues in tech. And there's a lot of systemic issues in tech. So there's going to be quite a bit of drop-off with onboarding newbies. You're going to see people come in and they're going to be really interested in working with technology. They're going to be really interested in getting involved. Make peace with the fact that all the newbies aren't going to stay, and it's not necessarily the fault of your community. So once you've got the newbies in, keeping in mind that they might leave, a lot of growing an effective community is word of mouth. So go ahead and make things as comfortable for new people as possible. Talk to them before the event, talk to them after the event. Make sure, you guys know how when people get into groups and events, they form these little unofficial circles? Make sure to open up your circle and talk to people who haven't been there before.